Let's start our journey through kayak techniques by working on the foundations, the element on which the kayak technique is based. After many years of teaching, I've tried to simplify the technical notions and concentrate on the 5 major principles on which kayaking technique is based. To maintain balance means keeping the weight of the body inside the kayak. Legs and pelvis must be left free to swing and follow the movements of the water, while the torso must remain upright in order to keep the weight of the body inside the boat. The torso is the real engine of every stroke. It can be compared to a spring that gets loaded through rotational torsion or flexion extension during a preparatory phase and then gets free during the stroke. The arms are only a mechanical link between the engine and the paddle. They do have a propulsive function, but it's definitely less important than that of the torso. In order to have a good engine, it's necessary that the rotational torsion of the torso starts from the hips. Legs and pelvis perform 2 main functions. They influence the swinging of the boat, controlling its balance and the setup of the kayak. And secondly, they are decisive for the propulsion. During every stroke, the energy starts from the feet, goes through the legs, pelvis, torso, arms, up to the paddle and its fulcrum in the water, and then it goes backwards and reaches the feet again. This transmits the energy to the boat and allows the movement of the kayak. The lower limbs push always in the direction where you want the kayak to go. The essence of the kayaking technique consists of using the blade as a fulcrum, a grip point which allows the movement of the kayak in all directions. You always have to remember that it is the kayak that moves and not the paddle. In order to be a fulcrum, the blade must be completely immersed in water while working. A paddle that works correctly does not spray water. Your eyes must always be looking towards the point you want to reach. It's not possible to maintain a straight line in flat water or to descend Class 5 rapids if you don't follow this rule, so simple and yet so compulsory. In every sport, the basic position is the most favorable starting position for the execution of the technique. Sit down with your legs slightly bent and knees wide apart, with the inner part of the thighs in contact with the thigh braces just before the knees. The 4 feet rest on the footrest. The pelvis is leant forward so that the back remains upright and the torso inclines slightly forward. The paddle must be held with the hands set symmetrically on the shaft. The distance between them must be slightly bigger than the width of your shoulders. For right-handed people, your right hand is the reference hand which always remains attached to the shaft. while the left hand allows the shaft to move freely inside it all the time while the paddle rotates around its axis. The way you place your hands on the shaft is very important. You must hold it with your fingers while the palms remain detached from the shaft. Another important element is the wrists, which have to be aligned so that you can exploit their mobility at best during the strokes. It's very important to practice and to know by heart the dynamics of the movements related to kayaking. We can swing the boat or keep it balanced on one side with the lower limbs when still or in movement. The heels must be free to move back and forth and allow the legs to bend or stretch slightly. The hips must have the ability to rotate slightly or to push back and forth. The torso can bend forwards or stretch backwards, or naturally rotate with torsion. In all strokes, the paddle must be kept parallel and far away from the shoulders. If we manage to keep this parallel position, we will be able to use our torso as the stroke engine. Whenever we want to keep the blade away from the center of our body and thus to have wider movements, we have to loosen the lock created by the paddle shaft and the groove between the thumb and index finger. The same goes when we have to put the paddle in a vertical position. It's the space that we have at our disposal in order to move the paddle in the water. We divide it into 3 areas: the front, the center, and the back. By bending or extending our torso, we can increase the workspace towards the bow and stern of the boat.